The hobby mindset, it is one without forward thinking. It's one with that can't be the way you operate. So
Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me, you matter what. Add it up.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Snaj V Show. I am Snaj V, and today we have Jason Khalipa with us today, which I'm super excited. I just wanted to welcome Jason to the show and dive straight into some questions. So thank you for being here, Jason.
yeah, it's good to be here. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been a while. So it sounds like we connected 5 years ago. So here we are again.
I know, right? It's crazy. A lot of the time people don't realize one day you meet someone and you just never know when they're going to come full circle back around. So I appreciate that you're actually here today. And I want to just start off by just give us like the briefest kind of concept of who you are and what you're all about, and I guess introduce yourself.
The briefest way possible. Let's see how I do this. I got into the fitness space really young. I was 15, started working at the front desk, was introduced to CrossFit in 2006, ended up opening up a gym. I won the CrossFit Games, competed there for a decade, expanded our business into multiple locations, got into corporate wellness, got into digital. So that company is called NCFit. We own and operate brick and mortar. We also service gyms virtually. I have 2 children. I'm a huge Jiu-Jitsu advocate, been doing that for about 7 years. And my journey has really shifted from wanting to be the fittest on earth and win the CrossFit Games to now being able to provide, protect for my family. I want to be able to get after it. I want to train hard, and I want to be able to utilize the gym to help improve my lifestyle. And that's where I'm at on this kind of journey of fitness in life.
I love it. That's awesome. And I've noticed a lot lately, you have been talking about hard things, right? That's been a concept that I feel like a lot of people, once they're at that point where they read, doing hard things are such a integral way of living, and you get to grow and develop yourself. And as you're talking about this, I wanted to ask you this question. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to overcome?
That's pretty easy. My daughter was diagnosed with leukemia, so I'd say that.
Wow. Tell us a little bit more about how did you do that? That must be such a hard concept for you to overcome, that being that you're all about providing and serving, and you had your business, I would imagine, all at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. At that time, we were, boy, oh boy, we had locations all over the world with Western Digital, corporate wellness. We've had, look, it was the toughest thing. I think obviously physically, I've been in some very difficult situations. Competing at the CrossFit Games, you do a lot of really difficult things, but those were obviously trumped by when you get the news that your child is diagnosed with leukemia. It hits you different. It hits you different than a workout or an event. Or I've even passed out on an event in the 2009 CrossFit Games. I blacked out and passed out, and that doesn't even get close to the type of pain that you feel when you get that type of news. And it's really because it's outside your control, right? Like you want to control things, but the reality is you can't control that. And so there was a lot of learning lessons for me with Ava being sick, in particular, recognize what's in your control, out of your control, and how sport benefited me in terms of learning mental strength and being able to correlate that into real life.
Damn, that's awesome. That's crazy, because I was a professional soccer player for 7 years. So even the things that you have to deal with on, for me, a field versus in a kind of a different setting for you, it is a very different world to what you experience outside of it.
Yeah, it just hits different. It's okay. You win and lose a game. Like that sucks for sure. Dude, I get it. You worked your whole life to go to X event and you lose. That sucks. It does. And I'm sure that you were really sad. I'll use myself as an example. It's probably better. I trained my whole life to win the CrossFit Games. And then you get there and you take second or you take third, or maybe you don't even get on the podium and you're frustrated. You're sad. But those things, that's a game, right? It's a game. It's a sport. Life, it comes at you different, right? When you experience trauma in life, sport can help you with overcoming that trauma, which I think is one of the benefits of sport. Like you played professional soccer. You've obviously had to learn how to cope with winning, losing, how to overcome certain things, mental strength, and those things carry over, I'm sure, in your day-to-day routine.
Oh, for sure. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. And I guess kind of tapping into that, how do you go from being essentially a professional athlete in your sport to being all about business and family and all of these things? Like there has to be a different world that you had to transition into. Right? You
I mean,
probably
it's
were
all the
training
same.
crazy.
It's because in 2008, when I won the CrossFit Games, there's no money in it. There's no fame in it. And so I had to identify what I was going to do for a living. And I opened up a gym at that same time to provide, to have income. And as a sport continued to grow, I just grew with it, and my business grew with it, and I grew, and then my family came along. Like it wasn't like back in the day, if you're competing in CrossFit, there was no money, there was no fame. So you had to go out there and go identify other avenues to provide for yourself. And that's what we did.
That's crazy. So now, do you compete still at all?
I'll do the Legends competition, which is like this thing from Rogue Fitness that's coming
Yeah.
up in October. I compete in Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm looking to compete in more alternative events here pretty soon. But no, not like at the CrossFit Games or anything like
Yeah.
that.
And do you find yourself training at a different level, or do you keep that same intensity and stimulus for yourself?
Obviously, I'm training a little bit different. I still train at a really high intensity, high effort level. That being said, I don't put in the same amount of volume as I used to because I'm not getting ready for the CrossFit Games. If I was trying to compete for the CrossFit Games, I'd be doing something completely different right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I saw some of your content recently, and I really liked this specific video that you posted. And it was
Sure.
all about detaching from your ego.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I love that. And I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that. And
Sure.
how do you detach from your ego? Because we see it all the time.
Yeah, detachment's a really valuable tool if it's utilized correctly. And it's very difficult to detach from your ego, especially when you're like highly emotional. And so the goal is to detach from a variety of things, including your emotion. I think that's the first place to start. So you're at a restaurant, server's not whatever, and you're getting emotional. And then your ego gets in the way. Oh, this person isn't serving me well because of the, and then all of a sudden you just come off like an asshole, right? Because you're emotional, your ego's in the way. These are happening to you, right? And so I think that the key is you have to detach from your ego, your emotion, your perspective are things that I'm working on, right? Where in each situation, if you take a deep breath, and I really got this from the guys over at Echelon Front, which is like a leadership group, which is essentially in each situation that arises, how can you take a deep breath and detach, number one, from your emotion. Anytime you're emotional, like you're not going to do or say the right thing. It's just no one's ever made an emotional decision that they're probably proud of later on. Like they probably like, damn, I probably could have done that differently. And then, which leads into your ego, right? Like checking your ego. And then adjusting your perspective, I think is really important. I think that we go into situations and you have your perspective, I have mine, right? Your perspective comes from playing world class soccer, live here, you, whatever, you date these people, you're whatever. That's your
Yeah.
perspective. Like you come from a certain echo chamber of whatever. And I
Mhm.
come from a different one. And I might walk into a situation and come to it with a different perspective. And if I can't take a deep breath and look at it as, hey, this person, if I can't detach from my own perspective and look at it through other people's lenses, that's also a big issue because everybody comes to things with different perspectives. And you have to be aware that you need to detach from your own all in those situations.
For sure. And you like now have so many gyms around the world, like you said. And what are the communities like amongst do you have different types of people in each location? Are you finding yourself attracting the same?
I think that in general, our footprint has consolidated in the last like couple of months because of corporate wellness. But even when we had our highest number of locations, like 30, 40, it the same type of people gravitate towards the training, which is people who want to improve themselves and people want to train hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, China, Mexico, whatever. It was going to be similar people who wanted to improve themselves. And those are the kind of people that I want to be around.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that's essentially why CrossFit's so great, right? It's such an impeccable world for people to understand that because CrossFit is just a very different way of training. It's not your typical gym going. But I kind of want to tap into a little bit more about the business side of things
Sure.
because I'm an affiliate owner myself and I've owned a gym now for just about 5 years. And one of the things that I try to look at is how to differentiate myself as an affiliate owner. I don't want to be a typical CrossFit box where what we come to understand. And one thing I've noticed about all of your gyms is how incredibly put together they are. And I'm sure you've had this so much. Everything's very clean, it's very tidy, and there's a very similar feel. And this is all just online, what I see. And I
Yeah.
can only imagine going into a space, you would see the same thing and feel the same thing. So, how important is it for you to keep that? Like the whole, like the gym hygiene and what to expect at an NC Fit.
It's just the culture, right? The culture that we're setting is that you're going to clean, the gym's going to be clean. We have front desks that are there all the time. We have rolled flooring where we could use a scrubber to keep it cleaner. We don't encourage, we don't discourage, we don't eliminate chalk, but people can bring in their own if they want. And by not having it all over the place, it definitely helps out. We try and just keep the facility as nice as possible while still exuding a rugged resemblance. So the wood tones, the gray walls, we're not trying to make it like a hospital. We're trying to make it like a clean, badass gym.
Yeah.
And it starts with the culture that's being created with our members, that they know that when they're done with their equipment, they're going to put it back. And our staff knows that when they're done, if they get chalk on their hands on the floor, they're going to mop it up. Like, it's just like a normal thing. And I think that ultimately what's happened is, because our spaces are designed to have the equipment against the walls and whatnot, it leaves a lot of open space in the center. So because we keep the floors clean, it makes the whole gym look really clean. It's because people do their best to, the culture really was set a long time ago. And I think our team's been doing a great job.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I really hope that this can encourage and inspire other gym owners to do the same, because I really think that would change a lot for the world of CrossFit and the affiliate side.
Yeah. The difference maker between an affiliate is the quality of coaching and the cleanliness of the facility. I'd say, yeah, and answering your phones and follow up and all that stuff. That's like, it's probably threefold then. It's how well you engage the new person and how comfortable you make them feel. How well do you service them when they're actually in your gym? And are your coaches doing an immaculate job to make them feel welcome and safe and effective workouts? And then third, is your facility clean and a place that people want to come to? Those three things. And if
Yeah.
your culture is different, like if your culture is old school CrossFit, where you got a warehouse with dogs and it's just like, that's the vibe you want to put out, like rock and roll. You just got to know that if the vibe is that, you might be detracting from a specific audience, but you also might be attracting a specific audience too. You just got to decide what you want to do.
Right on. Yes. And I definitely want to touch on the coaching thing, because I think that I've had mentors throughout all of my career in fitness. I've been in fitness for a really long time as well. And one thing that I am so grateful for is all the mentors that have helped me and shaped me to be the coach that I am. And now I have the ability to help coach others to be better coaches. So tell me a little bit more about what is your coaching kind of mentorship look like?
Yes, we have something called the NCFit Collective, and this was really started by necessity. So years and years ago, we're trying to open up multiple locations. So in the Bay Area, we had, I don't know, maybe 5 at the time. And we opened up one in Cabo, Mexico. You're like, okay, that's far away. Then you open up one in China, and you're like, shoot, how am I going to keep good quality coaching between all these locations? And at the time, we would just write down on a Google spreadsheet what the workout was, but we didn't really give much more clarity than that. And what we realized is we needed to give more consistency. And so we wanted our gyms to be like Starbucks, but not like robotic. We wanted the coach to thrive, but we needed to create guardrails. That was really important to us. And so we created the NCFit Collective, which is our session plans, our programming. We have the workout, the warm up, the scaling, the adjusting, the timeline, you name it. If a coach reads that for 20 minutes, they're going to know exactly how to perform well in that class. So we started rolling that out. And then long story short, we then started selling that to other gyms. And that's a major piece of our business. Is our B2B business is session plans and programming that we use in our gyms for other gyms. We also do something like called Coach Like a Pro, which is a online course. It's a 8-module, 4-week course where basically you watch the modules and we do live class. So that's Coach Like a Pro. The next one comes up in September.
That's amazing. And do you do mentoring specifically for coaches to help them? Because the coaching can be quite intimidating, right?
We do the Coach Like a Pro where we
Yeah.
limit it 50 people, but I don't do personal coaching calls with coaches. We do more of these kind of like 50-person cohorts that we do called Coach Like a Pro. Development is a daily tool, a daily session plan.
Right on. And to you, like, what makes a good coach?
You got to start with someone who cares, right? And then you got to understand their goals, which the athlete's goal is simple. As a coach, it's really simple for me. I walk into every class and I think about 3 things. I want to make sure people have fun. If they're having fun, they're going to come back. If they come back, they're going to be consistent. If they're consistent, they're going to be able to get results. So that's number 1, fun. Number 2, right? We got to make sure that they get in a good workout. And that's pretty relatively straightforward. And then number 3 is making sure they learn something new, at least at a basic level. And I think the reason why that's important is that people, especially interested in CrossFit, I know for me in Jiu-Jitsu, it's the same thing. They want to feel like there's growth, educational growth. And so that's why I think it's important that they have a great time, they get in a good workout, and they learn something new. And the key there is whether you have an athlete that's been there for a month, a year, 10 years, you want to be able to provide those same 3 goals to all of them. And that's why it becomes difficult, because your members are one bad experience away from never coming back into the gym again. So they could come in and you can know Sally for 10 years.
Yeah.
Sally could come in, have a poor experience and never come back again. And I think if we as coaches embody that mindset, it's a nice way for us to thrive.
Yeah, for sure. And with your all of your coaches, you can tell like they all like connect really well with one another. What's the environment like from a team perspective? What's that?
Yeah, I think this is an area that we've done much better in. We could still improve in from a culture perspective. I think doing team workouts, I think is important. Like I'm actually doing one tomorrow. I just put it out on our group Slack. Hey, I'll be at this gym at this time, come train. I think that's a way to do it. And I think just people seeing where we're going as an organization and feeling like we try and treat people right and do the right thing for the right reason, I think is important, but also setting a standard and making sure that we're doing quarterly reviews with them. We're showing them trajectory. We're clearly communicating their roles and expectations. I think those are important things that go both ways because it's a two-way street. If we're never providing formal feedback, we do twice annual formal scorecard feedback. And that's important because coaches want to know where they're at. And if we don't provide it, who else is going to do that for them?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's great that you touch on all of that because I really think there's a lot of gyms out there that probably don't get any form of team culture, no mentoring, and really just going into things blindly. And it's very hard to grow that way. So you've said several times at this point, growth is so important to you. What do you feel are the three areas that you would like to grow in currently?
I mean, we have this never settle mindset at the gym, and I have a never settle mindset. I think at the gym, obviously, we always want to increase revenue. We want to, I'd say we want to improve retention. Our retention is pretty good. We're obviously shooting for like that 2 to 3%. Yeah, I think in general, areas of growth are just making sure our culture comes through stronger, the service
Mhm.
is always at the highest level, and that we're growing the business for opportunities for our team. I think that's important. That's really where we're at.
Yeah, right on. What would be your advice for other gym owners who maybe are struggling at this point, given that obviously COVID has
Oh
happened
man.
and everything? What would be your advice?
I would just say that are they even in the right business in the first place? Like, I think that I, if you love to coach, if you love to train, like that's great. That's awesome. But it doesn't mean that you have to be a gym owner, right? There might be other opportunities. Like, take Facebook. If you're the number three person at Facebook, let's just say you're the finance controller, you're making tons of money, you're very successful. That finance person, as a number whatever at Facebook, would probably be miserable as a CEO of a business, but they
Mhm.
do really well in this particular area because they have a unique skill set and they are passionate about it. So I think as a gym owner, we think the natural gravitation of the next step for us is okay, we're going from a coach to a head coach to a part owner to an owner, whatever. But the reality is, I've met many coaches who are phenomenal human beings and great coaches, but are terrible business people. And they actually don't even like to talk about money and business. And if that's your case, you might want to pivot where you're at. So that's my first advice. The second advice would be treating your business like a business and not like a hobby. I think that ultimately this hobby mindset is gonna crush the industry because whether you're in jujitsu or CrossFit or whatever, the hobby mindset, it is one without forward thinking. It's one with that can't be the way you operate. So that would be my second thing.
Yeah, I love that. You're big into jujitsu. What have you learned so far in the
Yeah,
last
I've only
7
mentioned
years?
it like 10 times. It's like the first time you find out about CrossFit, you talk about it all the time. It's the same thing with jiu-jitsu.
It's the same thing. What do you love about it?
We got to get Bedros doing it more. I think he does it sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
he does, yeah, with his son.
what do I love about it? I love if you love CrossFit and you fell in love with it because of the complexity and some other stuff, you're gonna love jujitsu. The thing about jujitsu is it's a never-ending cycle of new stuff. So in CrossFit, I'll never forget the time I got my first muscle up, or the time that I got my first snatch at any type of real load, or my first rope climber, or handstand walk, or handstand push-up. And what happens is over time you start training. I've been doing it, wow, 2006. So whatever that is, almost 20 years, right? After doing it for almost 20 years, you no longer have these huge gains. Maybe you gain 1%, maybe you gain 2%, maybe you don't even gain. That where I'm at in my point, I'm probably going negative in terms of my snatch number, right? But in jiu-jitsu, every day, every session, every time, you can unlock the power of learning. And so if you're someone who likes to learn, and jiu-jitsu is like a game of chess, and that's what I love about it.
That's so good. And so what has been your results so far with it? Have you won matches or how's it work?
Yeah, I've competed, I'd say 6, 7 times. I've done well. And basically the way it works, you get belt rankings, right? So you start off a white belt, then you stay there for a year or two, then you go to blue
Mhm.
belt, you stay there for a year or two, then you go to purple belt, you stay there for like 2 or 3 years. I've had my purple belt for, man, long time. I've had my purple belt since a long time. So I should be hopefully soon getting a brown belt, but you got to earn these belts. They're not just given to you. And so if your instructors don't feel like you're there, they're not going to give it to you. And so for me, it's just continuing to learn.
And how does your body handle doing that? Because it's pretty hard on your body.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah. You got to regulate it. I can't do jujitsu like every day hard for weeks. I have to do 3 days of jujitsu and 5 days of CrossFit style training, whatnot. Otherwise, I'm just too beat up.
Yeah, that would be pretty epic. What's your kind of main form of recovery?
Obviously, I got all the tools, right?
Yeah.
Cold plunge, sauna, you name it. I got it all. Really, the main goal is a sleep. Like last night, man, I ate like some I don't know, the kids want to go get frozen yogurt and I just ate it and it was just stupid of me. Ate it right before bed. I slept terrible. And so my recovery is not as good. And it really comes down to hydration and sleep. And then the other stuff is just like icing on top. People want to get all wrapped up about like red light therapy, sauna, cold plunge, but they're missing the boat. That's not the focus.
They want the tools, but they don't actually want to do anything with all the other natural stuff.
Yeah, like the nutrition, all that stuff is way more important.
Yeah, for sure. So do you get a lot of crossovers? Does a lot of people that you do jujitsu with, do they do CrossFit now or that style?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that because people on the mats will start to see my strength conditioning. They'll be like interested in it. And then people who are in CrossFit, obviously I talk about it all the time. So they're transferring over too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to wrap it up and give people that listen to my show, a lot of them are those people who struggle a little bit with self-worth. So those are like majority of the audience. And the goal is to always empower them to try new things, to learn, to grow. And so I'd love for you to just share your own personal message of how to really overcome adversity and use it as an opportunity.
That's a big question. First off, I think that anybody in your audience who is not regularly exercising and doing hard training is missing out on the greatest gift on the planet. So I'll start there. And the reason why is that if you expose yourself intentionally to microdoses of adversity, those will pay huge dividends when you're outside the gym for real life. I've witnessed this with my family. I've witnessed this personally. The greatest gift the CrossFit Games ever gave me was the ability to compartmentalize, to understand what's in my control, positive self-talk, because I chose to have those microdoses of adversity. When real adversity strikes, you're better prepared to handle it. So if you're not regularly exercising, you're missing out on a phenomenal gift. If you're not regularly exposing yourself to difficult things, you're missing out on a beautiful gift. With my kids, I have a 9-year-old and 12-year-old. We do everything we can as a parent to try and keep them as comfortable as possible. We give them air conditioning, we give them heater, we give them food. We do everything we can, whatever. Obviously, we give them food.
I hope so.
Yeah. We do everything we can to keep them as comfortable as possible. And I think that we do them a disservice by doing so. I think that we need to expose our children to hard things. And I expose my children to hard things every single day, because the more they can learn how to acclimate to those hard things, the better off they'll be when life comes and punches them in the gut. And eventually it will. My daughter might get her heart broken. My son might get his heart broken. Who knows what'll happen, right? But the best gift that we could give our children and give ourselves is exposing ourselves to hard things that are on our terms, so that when real, not our terms go on, we're better suited. And I guess maybe I'm just biased because life's good and then your daughter gets leukemia. It changes your perspective on things. Like the perspective shifts from how could I have prepared for this? The way I prepared for it was by doing hard things that helped me prepare.
Yeah, and we live in a comfortable world at the moment where people don't want to do anything difficult. So I've personally had 9 surgeries and all of them were through surgery.
9?
Yeah, I've had 9 and the majority of them were soccer related except for 2. And so it's hard to overcome, like that's essentially almost 9 years of actually rehab recovery and overcoming that. A lot of the time people don't realize that it is focusing on what's in your control. And I love that because there is a little bit of stoicism involved in that. And from the perspective of where we are now in the world, everyone has so many comforts and complacencies and they don't want to put themselves in a position to do hard things. And this is why things like jiu-jitsu are great and CrossFit are great. And just even confrontation alone is great. And you'll probably get some people like, no, change it and make your children don't necessarily put them in hard things. Like if they don't want to, don't force them. It's no, we can force them. We're not going to hurt their feelings. We can force them a little bit.
They're wrong. They should be doing group sports. They should be winning. They should be losing. They should be exposed to these things. And again, like anybody who says that, like, I just think they're setting their kids up long term for a very difficult ride because inevitably, it doesn't matter when, it could be when they're 30, they're going to be confronted with adversity. And if they haven't been exposed to it, they're not going to know how to respond to it. Like it's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I regularly train the kids with jujitsu and self-defense. And obviously we do workouts every day. Those are things that we do, but other families can find whatever they want to do. Obviously, group sports are critical, but maybe just go on a walk and walk up a hill. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. With a weight vest on and a sled
Yeah.
behind you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, put on a Go Ruck vest and you're good to go. Yeah.
I appreciate everything that you've shared with us today. And I thank you for that. And I really think that there's so much value in this. So I hope everyone that's listening to this can unpack that, pick apart what is going to be right for you, and then apply it to your life, because everything's about action and not just about talking about it. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for all the things that you've just spoken about. And thank you guys for listening. So thanks again, Jason.
Add it up,